Hello and welcome to the Good Moves Careers Opportunities and Community Development webinar. I'm Mary from Good Moves team at SCVO, and also joining us is my colleague Susan. Good Moves is a recruitment website run by SCVO for the charity and not-for-profit sector in Scotland, advertising around 100 new job opportunities every week. As part of our service, we provide information on the variety of careers in the sector and how to access different job and volunteer opportunities. Community development is a large part of the charity and voluntary sector in Scotland, with thousands of large and small organisations involved, helping to bring together ideas, people and resources benefiting communities. So today, to help you find out more about this interesting and varied area of work, the opportunities, how to get involved and the support available, we're joined by speakers from the Scottish Community Development Centre, the Rural Development Trust, the Udny Community Trust Company Limited, and the CLD Standards Council Scotland. This session has been recorded. We do ask that you remain on mute throughout the session. Please use the Q&A function to put forward any questions. These will be answered either at the end of each presentation or at the end of each session. So let's move on and get the session started. Our first speaker today is Sarah Both from the Scottish Community Development Centre.
Okay, thank you, Mary. I will just see if I can share my screen just now. So hopefully you can all see that. Okay, my name is Sarah Both and I'm Head of Programme at Scottish Community Development Centre. Just to give you an overview of what I'll be talking to you about today, hopefully no more than 10 minutes, if my timings are right. I'll just give you a brief overview of the organisation that I work for. Because I'm going first and we're the national lead body for community development, I'll also give you a brief what is community development. And also a little bit about my career path and how I got into community development and where it's taken me over the years. Okay, as I said, I'm Head of Programme at the Scottish Community Development Centre. I've been in post now for less than a year. I started in August of last year, so I'm still telling everyone I'm new, because I think unless you've had a full year in post, you're still new, you haven't done your full first cycle, although my colleagues are telling me I am chancing my arm now, still calling myself new, but I'm still going for it until at least August. Okay, so I hope most of you have heard of Scottish Community Development Centre. I'm going to call it SCDC from now on just because that's easier. It is the national lead body for community development in Scotland, and we work directly with community groups and organisations across the country, but we also have a role in supporting community development practitioners and the wider workforce in promoting and supporting good practice in community development. And as well as that, we also work with government, policymakers and local partnerships in areas across the country. It seems a bit obvious. You've all signed up for a community development seminar, so hopefully you know what we mean by community, but I always think it's always good to make sure that we are all on the same page when we're talking about a particular topic. So community is a group of people who are united by at least one common characteristic, which includes geography, identity, or shared interest. And I think one of the terms you might hear quite a lot is a community of interest. It's also worth remembering when working with geographical communities that many local communities will have natural communities or natural neighbourhoods that aren't necessarily reflected in the local government, for example, local government networks or boundaries or definitions imposed externally. So it's always worth, even in a geographical community, when you're getting to know that community, understand what they mean by community. It might not be what's perceived from the outside. So I'm going to quickly go through this. Please do not time me. I might well take more than 60 seconds, but this is one of the explainers from our website. And I wanted to highlight it, just to talk to you briefly about what community development is and also what it isn't, but also just to highlight the range of information and resources that we have on the website, that if you are already working in the field or you're looking to get into the field, there's lots of really useful information and things that you can use working with groups and organisations which explain community development and different aspects of community development in a very accessible way. So community development is a process where people come together to take action on what's important to them. And it's really important to understand that community development is a process, particularly at the moment with a real focus on communities, statutory agencies looking to localise service delivery and place-based approaches, that just having a community-based service does not necessarily mean that that is community development. So, so bear that in mind as we go through the session today. So community development helps communities to organise and identify issues that they want to address and explore. And as I said, it can be communities of place or of a shared identity. Community development, as you'll hear in the session today, happens across Scotland, probably near you, and many of you may well already be involved either as activists, volunteers, or paid members of staff. And it's where local groups use their skills and experience to make positive change. It's also about challenging inequality and looking to create a fairer society. Community development starts from the belief that everyone should have equal access to all of these things on this slide. However, it also recognises that the way society and structures are organised means that some people can end up being excluded and or oppressed. And so community development is a big part of challenging this exclusion or oppression or inequality, primarily through supporting communities themselves to come up with their own solutions or campaign or influence change, because we believe that communities themselves have the best answers to a lot of these issues. But it's also about communities and public bodies working together. So at Scottish Community Development Centre, we don't just work with the third sector, the voluntary sector, the community sector. We work with public and statutory agencies as well to improve how services are run and how decisions are made, because another important thing to recognise is community development does not always end up in communities running groups or communities running services or communities owning buildings. It's about campaigning for change and influencing statutory and services at a local and a national level as well, and creating a fairer and more just society. And we believe that obviously community development is a crucial part of making Scotland a more fair, just and inclusive society, which at the moment can feel a little bit challenging for all of us, let's be honest. So at the SCDC, we are a small charity. There's only around 18 of us. So in terms of career opportunities within the organisation itself, they are relatively limited. If you've come across SCDC before, it's usually through our development managers who deliver a lot of our programmes, who are ably supported by information and communications and administrative team. We also run a course called Health Issues in the Community, where we train people in organisations, both in the public sector and the third sector, to become tutors on the health issues in the community course. And we support a network of tutors across the country who are involved in delivering that. So you might have come across SCDC in that context. And we also work in partnership with other agencies and consultancies when we maybe have a capacity issue or where there's a particular project that it makes sense to work together with other agencies on. I've put on the slide a number of the different programmes that we run through SCDC, which you may have come across before. I haven't put them all on the slide because my comms team would get me in trouble for putting too many things on one slide, but you can go on the SCDC website and see the range of programmes that we run. Some of these are funded through, well, most of these are funded nationally through Scottish Government or Public Health Scotland, and they are around supporting the wider workforce and community sector in a range of these different areas, whether it be co-production, whether it be community engagement. We host the national standards for community engagement, participatory budgeting, or community-led health approaches, which is our checks network. And in all of these programmes, we provide information, training, resources, but we also support a wider network of individual practitioners and community organisations involved in these different areas of practice, and support peer learning and peer development within that. And within those networks, it's worth noting that most people are involved in community development, or some aspect of their role relates to community development, but very few people will have the job title of community development worker. So if you're looking for career opportunities in community development, there will be a range of job titles that are relating to community development. There are things like, so you might get a community development worker, it might be a CLD worker, it might be a community planning officer, a community regeneration worker, a development officer. Many health improvement teams have a community development function, or people working in public health, as well as development workers or support workers, participation workers, involvement workers. So there's a whole range of job titles that may include elements of community development or have community development as their focus. This is a short synopsis of how I got here, and I'll not go into a huge amount of detail, but I just wanted to highlight the different ways that people can get into community development and where I'm at in my career path at the moment. I won't go into lots of the different routes in, because I'm sure Kirsty from the CLD Standards Council will be talking a lot about that. But in my experience, very few 16 or 17-year-olds are waking up, leaving school thinking, well, tomorrow I want to apply and be a community development worker. Most of us end up in this line of work through either our own activism, volunteering, or we've ended up working in a role which incorporated elements of community development, and that was something that we wanted to explore further and get involved in that work more. So as you can see, I started off with a degree in history and started off in the museum sector, but through that work was involved in engaging with local community groups and organisations to improve participation and widen access. And it was through that that I moved into community development and worked through a range of roles within local authorities, and then on into the third sector. I think what's worth noting about my career path is it's probably not available anymore in the same way, because I gained most of my experience and career progression through working in large, discrete CLD services. And while there are many CLD services and community development services across the country and local authorities, they are a lot smaller than they maybe once were. And I'm not telling you how long ago it was that I was in those teams. So again, I think that's where the importance, and that's why I'm in SCDC now, the importance of organisations such as ourselves in that wider workforce development, supporting people in those roles that I've described, which are maybe in smaller community groups and organisations, or dispersed more within larger statutory bodies such as NHS or local authority, where your line manager might not actually be a community development practitioner. So I think that's where bodies such as ourselves providing that practice development and peer support is so important within the community development sector. I'm going to finish there. I could talk for ages. This is contact details for our website. If you want to find out more, you can sign up for our weekly. Just give that a little bit of a plug, and happy to take any questions just now.
Thanks very much, Sarah. That's great. Susan, do we have any questions at all at the moment?
No, no questions at the moment, so we can go on to the next speaker.
No problem, that's fine. So next up, we do have Lindsay Devaney from the Rural Development Trust.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay. I'm a community development worker, and exactly like Sarah said, that isn't actually my job title. It's community action officer. I often say community development worker because people just understand what it is. The Rural Development Trust, oh, my thingy isn't working. Yeah. We're based in South Lanarkshire and North Lanarkshire. More recently, we do lots of different things, such as helping communities have access more outdoors, more transport, active transport, local community transport. We also do things such as larger pieces of work like community action plans and place plans. And what they do is they help the communities decide themselves what they want to see happening. My role is quite unique in this area. We're lucky that we have a lot of wind farms who put a lot of funding into the local communities, and I'm funded by a wind farm, and the Rural Development Trust enable the community I work for to employ me to work for them, and they act as an overarching employer. I got here again, I said it, I generally started in education, moved into community education, and then other first sector organisations, working in community centres, the day-to-day running, but also planning and funding and that kind of thing. And that's what led me to where I am now, which is great. So the main point of my role was to help the groups access more funding to do larger projects for the community. And when I started, we realized very quickly that those groups did not exist. The community had felt let down and abandoned in many ways. So very quickly we had to turn around, and it's really about engaging with as many people as possible, to try and get them to realize that, you know, you're listening and you're there for them, because that is why you're there. So it was a lot of building trust, trying to get quick projects delivered so that they can see that you're on their side and that you're working for them. And we got to the point where, you know, we can work on bigger projects now. You know, they know why I'm here. They know what we're trying to do together. And I think if you ask any community development worker, they'll say they've got a job description, but what they do is nothing like their job description, because we find out what it's really like when we're there and when we're engaging with people, because you have to be completely reactive to what, you know, they want and need, you know, so that's where your job goes, kind of thing. So I'm there a lot. This is our village hall, which is like my second home. And my role is really good. I'm home based, but I'm there a lot. And basically it's just about being there as much as possible, whether it's things that you're doing to everyone else, speaking to as many people as possible to get anything started and see what they want. So some of the projects that we've been doing can be small or large, something like setting up a baby toddler group, or a yoga class, which we're starting tonight, which is great. Or it could be, you know, bigger projects such as a community action plan, which is what we're doing. So that is a major piece of work, which takes a long time, but has buy-in from the community to decide what they hope to see happening over the next 5 to 10 years. That will then mean that other groups and workers can use that document to make those things, those projects happen, those things come to life. So another thing, a part of that is we set up a major development group, which will become a charity, and they will take responsibility for these projects, such as possible community ownership of buildings and other things such as that. But generally, you do whatever you need to do. You know, if I'm at the coffee morning and someone wants me to help them with a bus pass application, then I help them with a bus pass application. If I have to go to meetings with, you know, other organizations, local authorities, and represent the community, and pretty much as you can, just to make these projects happen. And I am not against shameless, you know, volunteering. We do a night out every now and then. So when I first started, lots of people said they wanted to see more things happening. Nothing was happening. So we wanted to set up an events group. So what we did is we threw a big Scottish night, which was, you know, we didn't have anyone to address the haggis, which is why it was a Scottish night and not a Ben supper. It was really successful. And basically from that one night where we got everyone together for some haggis and a cheap drink in the village hall, and we've got an events group now which do major fun days, family fun days, discos, gosh, afternoon teas, just everything you can think of. And so basically it's just finding a way of getting everyone in the room going, you really enjoyed that, didn't you? Yeah, so what more can we do? So a good night out is always a way to start. Whose agenda is it anyway? My favorite saying is, who asked for this? You know, it doesn't matter, you could have the best ideas in the world. You're there to represent the community, and it's what they want you to work on. That is what you work on. Yeah, I might think it's a great idea that we should have a casino, but if no one wants a casino, no one's coming to a casino. So funding is a major part of my role to try and get these projects, but I'm really passionate about finding the need and then the fund, and not just identifying a possible source of funding and making it fit, you know, because that's not what my community are asking for. All engagement should be meaningful, which is what leads me on to this. When we talk about community engagement, we really need to drill down. So as part of our community action plan, we are looking into community ownership of the village hall. Yeah. And if I stop everyone on the street and say, should the village hall stay open and should we own it? They will all say, yeah. Yeah. but what would actually they use it for? So when we did a community engagement event, we had people manning this, which is like, you know, you might want to see the brownies at the hall, but you're 17, you don't have any kids brownies age, what will get you in? And it's not just about asking questions and collating it, it's really about drilling down and getting conversations started to make sure what you're delivering is what's going to work. Roles and opportunities, networking is a huge part of my role, and I think it's really important. Everything in community development is really collaborative. People are so helpful. People have done it before and are willing to help, but the networking also helps you to see what other opportunities are out there, other organizations. Some are large enough that you can move into different projects and keep learning. But I think, there's sector organizations, there's funders, there's local communities. And I think once you're in this line of work, the more you network and the more you realize, what possibilities there are out there. And I think that's it. Any questions? Hope I wasn't too quick.
Thank you. I don't see any questions, Susan. Is there any
No.
for anyone?
Just remind
Okay.
just remind you that there's a chat and a question answer box at the bottom of the page if anyone wants to submit any questions.
Yep. Okay. So, thank you for that, Lindsay. So now moving on. So we're going to have Vicky Janetta from the Udney Community Trust Company Limited. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I was going to play a video, but as time is tight, I think I'm just going to go straight to the presentation, but I can post the link to the video on the chat. If anyone would like to then go and have a look at it, you can. You can just learn a little bit more about Udney Community Trust. So I'll just get to the start here. Okay. So my name is Vicky Janetta and I work for the Udney Community Trust in Pitmedden. So we're just about 20 minutes north of Aberdeen. So today I'm going to speak to you about my career path, my organisation, what I do, some job opportunities and maybe some job hunting tips. So I'll crash on. I'll be very quick because I've got quite a lot of slides, but we'll just crash on. So my career path's been quite diverse. So I think what this just goes to show, if you have a passion for community and community development, I don't think it really matters, what the past is. So starting in a nuclear power plant to then, working for your community, there's ways of getting there. But I guess, starting in the nuclear power plant, what goes along with that is all your other roles in terms of, I did a lot of volunteering. Sorry, I don't know why it's going like that. I did a lot of volunteering when I worked for the prison service. So that sort of gets you into the community side of things. But yeah, so next. But how I really got into this role was through all the volunteering. So me and my family did a lot in this community. And then when the job role came up, I felt like I was in a situation where I could apply. And it was probably more based on the volunteering and the interest that I had in the community that probably got me the job. So we are the Udney Community Trust, and we are a charity based in Udney, and we are lucky enough to be fully funded by our community wind turbine. So we actually own the turbine, and the funds from the turbine is put back into our community through the trust. And our one sole vision is to help the community of Udney to develop. But of course, that's quite a weighted statement because we can do that in various ways. So these are just some of our values and some of the things we do, how we work alongside the community. We're trying to be sustainable as possible. We try to help community achievements and so on. And this is just who we are. I'm in the middle there in that picture on the bottom, but we're 3 members of staff, and we now probably have about 60 volunteers. So we are so lucky. We are funded by the turbine, as I said, and that all started way back in 2006. And every year we try and do some turbine promotion, and we take groups to visit the turbine schools, community members, and so forth, so that people can understand the link between the turbine and the trust. So the Community Trust has been going since 2013, and the initial idea of the Trust was to give out the grant funding from the turbine, but the role has developed from that point. So we now have a community-owned building. Our community hub is the Medon Centre, and we now try to do things out of the Medon Centre to help, you know, advantage to our community. Yeah, I saw, when I applied for the job, I saw the role as helping the community. And this is my role description, but as was previously said, you honestly don't know what you're walking into on a Monday morning, and it just, I feel my role is dictated by the community. So what do the community want? So, you know, I feel like one of my roles is to do grants, and then the other is to literally liaise with the community. What do they want? What do they need? And how can we make it happen? So when I first applied for the job, so that was about 20 months ago, I had my own ideas of things that I thought our community needed. And I'm glad to say, I think we're ticking or have ticked all of these boxes, but just now we are revisiting Imagine Udny, which is our community action plan, and we have sourced some funding and we've got some help with taking that forward. So that's a really good one to see. I talked about our grant fund. So we manage a grant fund on behalf of local community groups, and they apply to us 3 times a year for funding. So that's quite a nice one to see groups be successful and local projects being brought forward and being successful. And we help loads of different community groups, anything from like the youth group to the bowling, to the schools, to our Good Companions, Brownies, Climate Action. So it's really lovely to be in a position where we can help these groups. We also have a community cafe that's attached to our building. So the cafe is within our building Wednesdays to Saturdays, and then out with cafe hours, we kind of use it as a community hub. We have a whole host of volunteers who help make everything happen, and that's just a wee flavour for some of the people in the events that we run. We have a community garden, which is just amazing, and they help stock the cafe, and we also have a sharing shelf, and the community garden puts produce to there as well. That's a little bit about our sharing shelf, which is literally a trailer in our car park. It's run by the Udny Community Shelf, and they make sure it's stocked and, you know, the produce is turned around, or all our health and safety is adhered to, all that sort of thing. But they run the shelf in our car park, and it's such a hit within the community, and it's all about reducing waste. It's not about need or people need to food share. It's all about reducing waste in our community. We have sharing libraries. We have one inside. We have a wee mini one outside. A local childminder runs that for us. She just came with us one day with an idea of doing a sharing library outside, and it's such a hit with the kids. We run baby and toddlers. So again, what Lindsay was saying, it's all dictated by what do the community want, what do the community need, and they needed a wee baby and toddlers group. So we have 3 volunteers who run that. We have something called Open Doors. This was set up on the back of the Warm Spaces projects that we all heard about after lockdown. But we didn't want to call it Warm Spaces because we wanted it to be a welcoming space that everybody could come into. So we had Open Doors yesterday. We had over 40 people there. We did Father's Day arts and crafts for the kids. Adults come in, play games, kids play games, cups of teas, coffees, the generations mix. It's a really lovely one. That's just some more Open Doors pictures there. We do health walks. So we have a core group of volunteers who run these for us every Tuesday from the Medon Centre, and then they can come back and have a cup of tea and coffee. We even have a quiet board games afternoon. Again, a group of ladies came to us and said, could we have a quiet space to play some board games in? So we sign them up as volunteers. They run the group. And we do a monthly guided walk, and that's all run by our volunteers as well. So our role in that is to support our volunteers. So we would do any of the process procedures, paperwork, risk assessments, etc., to make that happen. We have a wee group called Waste Watchers, and it's sort of a healthy living type group, and they get together on a Thursday morning in our cafe space. And we've recently started repair cafes. It goes on and on. Udny Climate Action came to us with an idea for repair cafes. And again, our role in it is making it happen. So is insurance in place, risk assessments in place, is there volunteers in place, are the agreements signed, and we have the space and we can help make these things happen. We do litter picks, so different groups, whether it's the Rotary Scouts or just different individuals, can come and hire the litter picks from us. Again, we put the paperwork in place, we have the equipment, and then the community can just get on with the litter picks. And conversation cafes we do as well on a whole host of topics, whether it's crafting or what the local co-op can offer. Our local paw pals, they came in to deliver one recently as well. So, and we decided to join partnership with a ladies group, and we decided to offer some sort of specific conversation cafes, so from the menopause to joining the high school. We have Grateful Waste competition. Again, this is the thing that happens every year. Udny Climate Action run it and we support it, but it's great fun within the community. And we do swap shops, which is a huge thing in our community. And because we have a community space, we can offer the swap shops for free, and people take the things that they no longer need and they take away the things that they do need. So we have a lot of fun at these swap shops. We also make sure we thank our volunteers. So for all this to happen, we need this army of volunteers. So we do at least one big volunteers event every year, but I'm always on the floor and I am always saying thank you to everybody, and I'm always sharing the success stories of what the volunteers have achieved over Facebook and things like that as well. We, as I touched on, community turbine visits, because it is important people know where the funding is coming from and how we got to where we've got to. And the reason is we had 5 amazing guys in our local community that thought it would be a good idea to build a community turbine. So it's all thank you to them. Every year we now do a summer fair, so it's just a great opportunity for local community groups, local crafters to get together to celebrate the community and do a bit of promotion or fundraising for their group. And we have a local craft group called Threads and Yarns who partnership with us to do craft workshops, which go down really well. So again, we provide the facility and make sure everything's safe, and then they come in and use it and have a good time. That's just a wee bit about our Easter crafts workshop. We've done a fashion workshop. And we've done a Halloween workshop, so lots of good fun, and it's great to see, that was a Christmas one, it's great to see people coming in and using our space and having fun. This was our community Christmas fair, so we now run these every year as well, and it's the same as the summer fair. It gets the community groups in, they can engage with each other, we can share information within the community. And this is a local artist, and he comes in on a yearly basis and just makes Christmas cards with the kids, so it's a lovely wee thing. And then we also host our partnership other groups. So we had a fashion show in here, an Udny Climate Action, quite a big event. Seasons for Growth was about local counselling. And then we've got the Fishman, he comes in on a Friday and he just parks in our car park. So we just, we partnership with different people in different groups for different reasons. There is a job opportunity here for a manager, so it's nice to be able to do this and actually tell you that we do have a job opportunity. So if anybody is interested in that, there is details on our Facebook page at Udny Community Trust. And also I want to finish with the volunteering side of things. We've always got volunteering opportunities, and it's anything from gardening to wrapping up Christmas presents to helping us evaluate our grants or to do a few hours in our community cafe. But there's always something, and sometimes we have new volunteers join us and they have an idea that we've never thought about, which is just great. We can help make things happen. And as I say, the volunteering is a key thing. This is why all these things work. And this slide is just some quotes from some of our volunteers about what we have here, what we provide, and how that makes people feel, which just makes the job worthwhile. It really does. And then sort of my biggest tip would be for applying for a job in this sector is, I think if you care, I think it's all about caring about for your community, caring about your environment, And I think if that just comes across, yeah, then you'll be doing well. So hopefully that wasn't too much. And if you've got any questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vicky. So I'm not sure, I don't see any questions there either at the moment. So we'll just continue on. So that was some great insights into just those three organisations and the work they do in the community development, using the resources they've got available to them, and obviously from the input from communities themselves. And it was, the various roles available in the paths into these are interesting to see as well. So, and obviously, yes, the volunteering side of things is always a good route in. So yeah, there is just so much more in community development than people may think. So that was really interesting. Thank you, everyone. So basically, our final speaker today for the session is Kirsty Gemmell from the CLD Standards Council Scotland, and she'll concentrate a little bit more on how they can help career development within the community development area. So I'll just move on to Kirsty now.
That's great. Thanks, Mary. And hi, everyone. Thanks for having me along this afternoon. I think the SCVO are going to share my slides because we had a slight technical hitch earlier, as you might expect. There's always one, and it's usually me. So I might be doing the next slide, please, quotation at the end of each slide. So bear with us on that one. But as I say, thanks for having me along. I work with Community Learning and Development Standards Council Scotland, and in these 10 minutes or so, what I want to do is tell you about the work that we do in CLD Standards Council, a bit about who we are, and you may then, at the end of it, we hope, feel fired up to join us. So if we could move to the next slide, thank you. So who are we? We are the CLD Standards Council in Scotland. We were established in 2008, so we're a fairly young organisation. We're the professional body for people who work or volunteer in community learning and development. We're the only professional body for people for CLD in the world, and that's because nobody else in the world apart from Scotland brings together the three arms, if you like, of community learning and development, which are adult learning, community development and youth work. So all of those sit within the community learning and development umbrella. And we have a ministerially appointed chair. Our current chair is Alan Sherry. So if we move to the next slide, you can see that we are we are a membership organisation. We are led by our members and we welcome applications from those members to join our committees. We're overseen by an executive committee, and we have three further committees who look at more of the operational things that we want to achieve. They look at the approval of training for people who want to work in community learning and development, including community development, of course. We look at professional learning, how we can support people who are working in community development to maintain and develop their skills and experience. And we look at the registration of workers and volunteers across the sector. So as I said, our committees are made up of Standards Council members and they're supported by our core staff team. There are 9 of us in the staff team, so we like to think of ourselves as small but mighty. We cover the whole of Scotland and work on some fairly important and wide-ranging aspects of supporting the community development sector in Scotland. So if we go on to the next slide, this just gives an overview of what CLD in Scotland looks like at the moment, and this probably doesn't cover everything, but it gives us a bit of a flavour. There are 3 government ministers who have responsibility for CLD, and it's split between them. So our learning functions sit under the Minister for HEFE, Youth Employment and Training, and the Minister for Veterans, which is currently Mr Graham Day. The community development functions are split between the Minister for Employment and Investment, currently Tom Arthur, and the Minister for Public Finance, Ivan McKee. So already you can see that it's not a straightforward path within the world of CLD and community development. Key legislation governing CLD, we have the requirements for CLD, the Community Empowerment Act and the Community Planning Partnerships. At the moment, and you know that these things change quite quickly, some of the key policies include the Adult Learning Strategy, which was published in 2022, the Youth Work Strategy, which is in development, Fairer Work and policy, volunteer policy. There's policy around social justice, poverty and inequalities, achieving a sustainable future, regeneration strategies. There's a whole range of things, and I think that can be seen really well from some of the examples that the others were giving about the kinds of activities that you get involved in when you work within the community development field. So that isn't all. There are other things that, other legislation and policy that are relevant and have impact, but these are some of the key things that you can see on the screen. So if we move on, we can look at in a wee bit more depth about the consultations and policy that we're involved in. So one of the key things that we do as the Standards Council is consult with our members on policy developments and act as a collective voice for the profession. So we will ask our membership what they think about policies that are being prepared and that are out for consultation. You can see already just from that slide that there are a range of things just in the last year that we've been involved in that cover a wide range of topics, some that are very directly related to community development practice, some that are a bit more general than that. But you can definitely see that we have lots of connections to lots of different policy areas, and all of those in one way or another will impact the work that you do as a community development practitioner. One of the biggest things that's happening for us just now is there's an independent review into community learning and development. That was announced in December last year, and the report is due to be published this month. So we will await with bated breath to see what the recommendations from that review are for our sector as a whole. So all of that said, you might be listening to this thinking, yeah, I don't know if that's me. So are you CLD? And you are CLD if you work in adult learning, you work in community development, or you work in youth work. As we've heard from some of the speakers earlier on, CLD is delivered in diverse settings and sectors, and that's broadly CLD. That also includes community development, really diverse settings and sectors, people in lots of different areas doing lots of different activities and roles. Interesting to think about some of the comments about job titles that were coming up earlier. I did a piece of work last year where I was using goodmoves as a key resource in looking at some of the vacancies in the CLD sector, and I looked at that across a 6-month period. And across CLD, so bear in mind that this is adult learning, community development and youth work, I recorded vacancies for 304 different posts across that 6 months. There were 179 different job titles across those posts. For community development, in that period, 41 of those jobs were community development related, and there were 27 different job titles within that. So I guess the moral of that story is that if you're looking for a job in community development, don't necessarily look for the words community development in the title. CLD is quite often viewed as a practice and as an approach. We think of it as a profession. It's all of those things, but we want to make sure that people understand that you need to have skills in order to deliver community learning and development. Not everyone can do it, and the people who do deliver CLD are skilled, they are qualified, they are trained, they think about what they do. It doesn't just happen. Although it may look like that, it may look like they're just having a good time at a Scottish night, but actually there's a lot of things going on in the background and underneath there to look at what are the needs of that community, what are the desires of that community, how can coming together in that setting help cohere that community and work out where that community wants to go next. So one of the things to think about is, well, what pulls all of it together? We think about CLD, we've talked about it happening in a range of settings, with different job titles, with different activities. What we have underpinning that in the Standards Council is a competent practitioner framework. So that really brings together a set of attributes, which are down the left-hand side of your screen there. It brings together 7 competencies and it brings together a code of ethics. And what we would say is that regardless of where you are working in community development, you can use these to underpin your practice. So some of the benefits of joining the Standards Council, what do you get from joining? Well, it's free to join. You have access to peer support. We're a professional body. Sometimes it can be quite a lonely place in community development and CLD more generally. You might be the only community development practitioner in an organisation or in a particular community. By joining the Standards Council, you have that access to peer support and to professional learning opportunities. You can contribute to those policy consultations and take part in peer-led learning. We also will keep people involved through our regular bulletins and through our annual conference. So just a bit of our work in numbers, just to give you an idea. We did some Have Your Say sessions last year where members could come along and give us their views on a range of topics. We have an Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Forum, which meets regularly. We've got over 3,000 members at this point, and we are always looking for more, so please feel free to join. And I'll just quickly move on to the next slide because I'm conscious of our time. Just a few quotations on here of some of the feedback that we get from our members about participating and making the most of their membership. So you can see some of the things there that people say. I won't read these all out. You should be able to access the slides after the session. We also, for new members, have a professional induction programme that people can undertake, and this gives you a chance to really get to know all about the Standards Council, the values, the ethics, the competencies, and what that means for you and your practice. And as part of that, we would support you to prepare a professional learning plan that you can use then to develop your own practice. As part of this, you're given access to a buddy and they can work with you to look at how you want to develop your career in community development. So the final slide then is a slide about joining the Standards Council. You can click the QR code there and it will take you to our membership page. It's a really important time to be part of the professional body for CLD. There's lots of things happening in the world of CLD across the country. They may not always be called community development or community learning and development, but we know that they're happening and that we're connected into that. So please get in touch if there's anything else that we can support you with. And thank you for listening. Happy to take any questions.
I think we do have a question for you here, Kirsty. There's someone's asking, when should you become a member?
As soon as you start practicing community development or in community learning and development, as long as you're practicing, we have 2 different types of membership. So we have registered membership for people who have a degree level qualification in community learning and development and are practicing, Or we have associate membership, and that's for people who don't have that degree level qualification but are working or volunteering in community development or community learning and development. So 2 different types. There's no difference to the member benefits you get, depending on the type. It's not a hierarchy of membership, it's just 2 different pathways.
Okay, thanks for that. We've got another question in, and I think this is for all our speakers today. Someone's asking, are there any specific qualifications needed to work in CLD?
I'm happy to come in on that one. I would say it's wide and varied and depends on the employer. Some of the work that I referred to in the research that I did last year really showed that there is a wide range of requests from employers for qualifications. Some will look for the degree level in community learning and development. Some might look for an HNC or an SVQ. Some will be happy that you come in with experience. So it really does vary, and probably along though with that, the salaries vary too. So it's a really blurry landscape in some instances, but we as the professional body would always say it's worth looking at some kind of qualification or training. We're doing some work just now to look at the career pathways that are there, so that if people don't want to go straight into university, that there are stepping stones that they can take to build up their skills and qualifications.
Okay, don't know if any of the other speakers want to add anything to that regarding qualifications. Vicky?
Yeah, I can come in. Just my view, and this isn't necessarily the SCDC view, but it's my view previously as a manager in third sector and in local authority, where just to kind of echo what Kirsty was saying about the skill set of community development practitioners, that I would see it as an employer in those circumstances. Either as necessary or desirable, in my personal view, necessary, but not necessarily sufficient, because I think the work experience and life experience people bring is as equally important, but also essentially it's also echoing what Kirsty said, the importance of different progression routes, because while I came in through a postgraduate qualification because I already had a degree, working with volunteers and community members over the years, having professional development awards that people can do alongside workplace learning, things like youth achievement awards, adult achievement awards, and then those progression routes through HNC courses at college allows people to explore and explore those skills within that kind of qualification route that they are gaining through a volunteering basis. So I think they have to balance each other, the qualification and the work experience, in my view.
Thanks. Sorry, Vicky, did you have something you want to say there?
Yeah, I think from like my my personal experience of this, I didn't have a university degree or a qualification in this, so I probably came in through the route of just having a passion for my community, and probably all the volunteering things that I did within my community probably stood me in good stead for getting this job. And I think it's just showing the willingness and the passion and how much you value it. And so I think the person spike has a lot to do with it, as well as the formal qualifications that you've got against your name. So yeah.
Okay, thanks. I think another one for Kirsty here. Someone who's about to go into 4th year at uni, should they wait until after their honours to join?
No. It's a quick answer. No, join today. Yeah, you can join as someone who is studying community learning and development at uni. You can join as an associate member, and we can get that put through pretty quickly. Once you have qualified, you can move to being a registered member after a year's worth of practice. So you can join today. And what I would say is that if you join the Standards Council, when you are looking for jobs, if you're saying on your job application form, I'm a member of the CLD Standards Council, then what that tells that prospective employer is that you have committed to practice to the competencies, values and ethics of CLD, and that you've also committed to undertake a certain amount of professional learning each year. So you're telling that employer, if you hire me, you're getting someone who's coming in with a baseline level of quality practice, and I want to learn more. So I would say do it, and it will stand you in good stead with an employer.
Okay, thanks. I think we've got time for one more. I think this is one for all our speakers. I have a degree, graduated 2023, and over 15 years experience in the third sector. None of their experience specifically says CLD. Yeah, they're acknowledging you have commented on those job titles already. So how do they show that they can do it? I think basically someone's saying their previous job titles haven't specifically said community development. So they're kind of showing how do they put forward in applications they can do the role.
Is it all right to speak? Sorry. I would say it's get involved in your community. You know, have a presence in your community if you can, and you know, just show people what you're made of. Go out there and, you know, set up a new group or set up a new initiative in your community and really show people what you're made of, and don't be afraid to blow your own trumpet. Like when I went for my job interview, when I went for it, I did a presentation on what I thought that we could achieve from the Medin Centre, and the job was community engagement officer in the Medin Centre, and I did this whole presentation on what I thought we could achieve. So really, you know, sell yourself, don't cut yourself short, and just get out there and let people know who you are and what you're about and what you can do.
Did I pick up that?
I think.
Sorry, did I pick up the person has got experience and has a degree, but the job titles aren't necessarily?
Yeah, the job titles don't necessarily link to CLD.
Just be really explicit within what your experience was within those job roles and relate them to there's things like the competences that Kirsty mentioned. There's national occupation standards. You've got the explainers on SCDC website, which, so if it is a specific community development job, just make sure that you're using the language of community development to explain and be explicit about what the roles that you did were and how they related to community development. And between the CLD Standards Council, for example, and SCDC website, I think there's lots of language and examples there that you could use through doing that. And it's like any application, it's tailoring it to the person specification in the job description and making sure you're making those links between your experience and what they're looking for.
Yep, absolutely, Sarah. I would agree. It is about being really clear and explicit about how you meet those person specs. You know, whatever's in is essential and desirable. Make your experience match those. You know, draw clear lines for them in there. The other thing that we can offer members of the Standards Council is access to a buddy. Generally, if you're thinking about how can you develop your career and you maybe want to speak to someone with a bit more experience in that kind of area, then as a member offer, we can offer buddy and mentor support for that. So that might be something to think about.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are coming to the end of the session. So we hope that everyone's found this session interesting. Thank you for joining us, and special thanks to all our speakers today. If anyone does have any other questions, please contact the Good Moves team using our details on the website, and you can contact any of the speakers directly via their own websites and social media channels. Don't worry if you didn't catch all the information on the presentations, because you will be emailed the recording of this session, and it will also be available on the Good Moves YouTube channel. So thank you very much to everyone that came along, as I said, and have a good day. Thank you.